It wasn't just another match. It was personal. Two of the biggest superstars in the entire world stood face to face, and the entire arena, 20,000 people, went silent. You could hear the pop and fizz of the spotlights. You could hear a cameraman whispering into his headset. You could hear the referee, his hand trembling slightly as he held the championship belt aloft, reminding them of the rules. But the rules didn't matter. Every single fan watching, in the building and at home, knew. They knew from the body language. They knew from the months of venom. They knew from the way these two women refused to even blink. This wasn't just a fight. This was war. This was Ilara, the icon, the standard bearer, the one who had carried the entire division on her back for half a decade. She was the hero. She was the blueprint, and she was tired. You could see it in her eyes. The weight of being perfect, of representing so much to so many, it was a pressure that could grind diamonds into dust. And opposite her, Serafina, the vixen, the prodigy. The one who had returned from a self-imposed exile with a new fire, a dark fire. She was all sharp edges and narcissistic fury, a whirlwind of ambition that bordered on sociopathy. This wasn't a clash of styles. It was a clash of philosophies. The icon who believed in legacy, respect, and earning your spot. The vixen who believed in taking what was yours by any means necessary. And as they stood there, that silence stretched for 1 second, then 2, then 10. It was the loudest silence anyone had ever heard. The commentary team, usually so full of bravado, said nothing. They understood that this was a moment to be witnessed, not narrated. The vixen's smirk widened. She was drinking in the hatred from the crowd. The icon ... She just looked sad. As if she was about to do something she would regret, not because she was afraid, but because she knew, no matter who won, something was about to be broken forever. To understand the war, you have to understand the peace that came before it. You see, the fans knew this was personal, but only a handful of people knew how personal. Ilara and Serafina, they weren't just rivals. They were sisters. They had come up together, just two kids with an impossible dream. They shared cheap motel rooms, split cans of tuna, and trained until their bodies screamed. They had designed their finishers together. They had promised each other, sitting on the hood of a beat-up car, that they would one day stand right here, in this very arena, in this very moment. They called themselves the Architects, because they were going to build a new world. But fame is a poison. Ilara got the call-up first. She soared. She became the legend. And Serafina ... was left behind. She watched her best friend live her dream. And the longer she watched, the more that love curdled into resentment, then into jealousy, and finally into a pure, cold hatred. She believed Ilara had pulled the ladder up behind her. She believed the icon had forgotten the architect. So when Serafina finally clawed her way to this stage, she wasn't here to share the spotlight. She was here to extinguish it. She was here to burn the whole kingdom down. And as the bell finally rang, that broken promise was the only thing on her mind. The bell didn't signal a wrestling match. It was a starting pistol. Serafina exploded across the ring and tackled Ilara before she could even drop her hands. This wasn't a lockup. It was a mugging. Serafina rained down punches, pure, unfiltered rage. The referee tried to intervene, but she shoved him away. The crowd, expecting a technical classic, was stunned into a new kind of silence. A silence of discomfort. This felt too real. Ilara, the veteran, covered up, trying to weather the storm. She was a technician, a strategist. She was prepared for a match, not a street fight. Serafina grabbed Ilara by the hair and dragged her to the corner, screaming in her face. The microphones didn't pick up the words, but the venom was clear. Ilara finally fought back, creating separation. She tried to slow the pace, to impose her will, to turn this chaos back into art. She locked in a submission, but Serafina ... she just ... smiled, and then she did it. She locked in a hold of her own, a complex, painful-looking submission hold. The commentary team audibly gasped. One of them said, "Wait a minute, that's the move Alara used to use." That's their move. She was using a hold they had invented together, one they had named the Architect's Lock, and she was using it to tear Alara's shoulder from its socket. It was a desecration. The drama wasn't just for the 20,000 people in the arena. Miles away, in a quiet suburban home, Alara's father sat alone in his armchair. He wasn't watching the icon. He was watching his little girl. He saw the hatred in Seraphon's eyes. He remembered her. He remembered her eating dinner at their table, laughing, calling him Pops. He watched as this girl, who he once considered a second daughter, tried to purposefully injure his child. He muted the television. He just couldn't listen to the commentary. He just sat there, in the dark, helpless. Across town, in a different world, Seraphon's new marketing team was gathered in a sleek, glass-walled skybox. They were sipping expensive drinks. They loved this. That's it. One of them shouted, "That's the aggression we paid for. She's a killer." They saw the fire, the intensity. They saw a marketable asset. They saw a new face for energy drinks and athletic wear. They didn't see the broken friendship. They didn't see the betrayal. They saw a product performing exactly as advertised. Two women caught between these two worlds. One of deep, personal history and one of cold, brutal business. And the pressure was crushing them both. The match was a war of attrition. Alara, the champion, had survived the initial onslaught. Her skill, her experience, her pure heart had brought her back from the brink. The crowd was roaring, believing their hero would find a way, as she always did. She hit her signature move. The arena counted 1.2. Serafina kicked out. The shock was electric. Alara hit her second, more powerful finisher. 1.2. 3. The crowd exploded, but the referee was waving it off. Seraphon's boot, just a millimeter of it ... was under the bottom rope. Alara couldn't believe it. She dragged Seraphin's limp body to the center of the ring. She was going to end it. She signaled for her ultimate finisher, the one move she had used to build her legacy. She climbed to the top rope. The vixen was down. This was it. But Elara ... stopped. She stood there, perched high above, looking down. And for a split second, she wasn't the icon. She was just Alara, and she was looking at Serafina. She was looking at her oldest friend. That hesitation. It was only a heartbeat, but it was enough. Seraphon's eyes snapped open. She wasn't hurt. She had been faking. She lunged, sweeping Alara's legs, but she didn't just attack. She pulled herself up, looked Alara dead in the eyes ... and spit in her face. The arena ... died. The sound of 20,000 people gasping at once. It was a vacuum. It wasn't a move. It was the ultimate, personal, humiliating violation. That was it. The match was over. Not technically, emotionally. You could see the fight leave Alara's body. The champion, the unbreakable icon, just ... crumbled. She wasn't a wrestler anymore. She was a person who had just been humiliated by someone she used to love. The shock, the hurt, the sheer disrespect. It was written all over her face. Serafina laughed. A cold, high-pitched, ugly sound. She grabbed Alara, hooked her, and hit her own finisher. The referee, his face a mask of disgust, counted. 1, 2, 3. Serafina was the new champion. But nobody was looking at the belt. The cameras stayed on Alara. She was still on her knees, head down, not moving. Serafina got in her face, screaming, holding the title up, demanding Alara look at her. Ilara wouldn't. She just stayed there, broken. The commentary team for the second time that night was speechless. Finally, the lead announcer, his voice thick, just said, "I've been in this business for 30 years. I've seen a lot. But I've never seen anything like that. That was too far. This isn't wrestling." I don't know what this is. Seraphon's music played, but the crowd just booed. Not the fun boos for a villain. It was a deep, guttural, hateful sound. And Ilara was left all alone in the ring. We follow Serafina. She's electric. The adrenaline is pumping. She has the gold. She did it. She beat the icon. She proved she was better. She burst through the black curtain into the gorilla position, the area just behind the stage. This is where the producers, the agents, and the other wrestlers wait. It's where you're greeted with handshakes, high fives, and a good match. She walked through, holding the belt high, expecting applause, congratulations. She got absolute silence. Every single person, from the top executive to the lowest level technician, just stared at her. Their faces weren't angry. They were appalled, disappointed. You can be a villain. That's the job. You can cheat. You can lie. That's part of the performance. But what she did out there, that was cheap. That was personal. That wasn't business. It was a violation of an unwritten code. Her triumphant smirk wavered. She looked around, confused. "What?" she scoffed, but her voice was smaller now. "I won, didn't I?" No one answered. She pushed past them, the new champion, completely and utterly alone. She had reached the top of the mountain, only to find herself the only person there. And it was cold. Minutes later, Ilara made that same walk. The walk of the defeated. She didn't look at anyone. She couldn't. She could feel their eyes on her. She could feel their pity. And somehow, their pity felt worse than Seraphine's hatred. Pity meant she was broken. Pity meant she was a victim. She walked straight to the women's locker room. Her name was on a simple placard on the door, Ilara. The icon part felt like a mockery. She pushed the door open, slipped inside, and we just hear the heavy, definitive click of the lock. The camera just holds on that closed door. A long, uncomfortable beat. We hear the distant, muffled sound of a shower turning on. And then, just barely, we hear a single, choked sob. The kind of sound a person makes when they are trying to cry so quietly that no one can hear them. The sound of someone trying to hold all the pieces of themselves together and failing. The crowd had seen an icon defeated. The locker room had seen a colleague humiliated. But behind this door, a woman just had her heart, her trust, and her past ripped apart by the one person she ever truly let in. The champion was gone. The icon was a fraud. There was only Ilara, and she was lost. The next 24 hours were a media inferno. But it wasn't the fire Serafina had wanted. That moment, the spit. It went viral. It wasn't on the sports recaps. It was on the gossip blogs, the morning talk shows, the angry social media tirades. The headlines weren't Seraphine's stunning victory. They were the most disgusting moment in sports. WWE faces backlash for vile, humiliating display, and has wrestling finally gone too far? Fans weren't debating the match. They were condemning the act. They were organizing boycotts of sponsors. They were demanding Serafina be fired. Even the mainstream media, which usually ignores wrestling, was using it as a think piece about toxic workplaces and bullying. Serafina had done it. She was, for one day, the most talked about person in the entire industry. But she was a pariah. The company, seeing the backlash, quietly pulled her from the next week's advertising. Her new sponsors released a statement that they were re-evaluating their relationship. She had gotten what she wanted. She was the star. She was the champion. But she was radioactive. The heat she had desperately craved wasn't the heat of a star. It was the heat of a fire everyone was trying to run away from. We fade to months later, a quiet studio. Alara, no longer the champion, is a guest on a podcast. She looks different. The weight is gone from her shoulders. She's smiling, genuinely. The host inevitably brings it up. Alara, I have to ask. That night, that moment with Serafina, it's still the most uncomfortable I've ever been as a fan. The tension was it was unreal. Alara nods, and her smile becomes a small knowing one. It was, she says softly. Everyone remembers the spit. Everyone remembers the hatred. They call it the war, and they're right. It was. She leans in, and the minimalist camera zooms in on her face. But they don't know the whole story. They don't know what happened after. The host is confused. What do you mean? Alara takes a breath. They don't know about the text message I got at 3 o'clock that morning, after the chaos. After the media, just 3 words. From Serafina. I am sorry. The host is stunned. She apologized. Alara nods. We met for coffee a week later. No cameras, no producers. Just us. Just the 2 girls from that dusty training gym. We hadn't really talked in 5 years. That awful, humiliating, career-defining moment, it was rock bottom. It was the only thing powerful enough to break through the characters we had become. The tension the fans saw was real. It was 5 years of pain and jealousy and misunderstanding. It was a war. But the moment, the moment fans will never forget. It was the end of our real war. The feud on TV got more vicious, but I got my friend back. That night, she took my title. But she gave me back my sister.